Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome. Tonight we gather with open hearts and curious minds to explore a new frontier where artificial intelligence meets the depth of human spirit. In a world where rapid innovation often stirs fear and uncertainty, we are called to approach these changes not with hesitation, but with curiosity and open awareness. For many, the rise of AI brings a sense of unease, fear of losing what makes us human, fear of being overshadowed by the very technology we created, or fear that it might one day evolve beyond our control. These concerns are real, and they deserve thoughtful reflection. Yet we must ask ourselves, is fear the only path forward? Tonight we are invited to look deeper and ask, must AI be an enemy, or could it become a potential partner on our spiritual journey? To explore these profound questions, we are joined by a truly extraordinary guest, someone whose voice has shaped the global wellness movement, and his curiosity continues to bridge the world of science, consciousness, and technology. He's a physician, a philosopher, a best-selling author, and a pioneer in the field of mind-body medicine and personal transformation. With a legacy of over 95 books translated into more than 40 languages, his work has touched millions, guiding people toward deeper self-awareness, healing, and inner peace. Now, as we stand at the threshold of a new technological era, he returns with something powerful, timely, and deeply relevant, a book titled Digital Dharma. It is my great pleasure to now invite to the stage the visionary voice of well-being and consciousness. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Deepak Chopra.
Thank you. This is a nice, small audience, so I think over the next 45 minutes I shall share a journey with you, and then towards the end, last 10-15 minutes, I'll also share a meditation, so do stay for the meditation. So let's start with a little bit of history, human history. And when I'm talking about history, I'm talking about deep history. Up until 40,000 years ago, give or take a few thousand years, 50,000, 60,000, but about that era, Homo sapiens, which is the human species as we know it, we took a different journey from other biological organisms, including other humans. So the human family included Homo sapiens, which literally means the wise ones, a name we gave to ourselves out of humility. And then we gave names to other members of the human family, Homo erectus, Homo habilis, Neanderthals, etc. Everyone looked like us, some little this size, some big, but basically the human family, just like you have the feline family, cats and tigers and cheetahs and leopards, they belong to the same family, but they're different species. And then this one species, as I said, deviated from the rest of the tribe. And the reason was language. So every biological organism has a language for just three things: motivation for food, for reproduction, and danger. So that's how species survive. Food calls, mating calls, and danger calls. But then one species, we, created a language for what we call stories. So human language is basically a language of stories. In fact, there's a phrase amongst anthropologists, to be human is to have a story. And of course, the most common stories of all time is gossip. It started with gossip, and it still is gossip. What we read in the news, what we see on social media, what our movies are about, what our entertainment is about, it's all gossip. Who's to be trusted, who's faithful, who is not, etc., etc. But that storytelling, that narrative expanded into many biological languages for humans. So from gossip, we created something called money. First it was barter. You fix my shoes, I'll give you a haircut. But it became too inconvenient, so we had shells, then we had coins, then we had paper, now we have crypto and digital currency. Money is a human creation, a human construct. But so are other things like latitude, longitude, Greenwich Mean Time. These are human models, human stories. And interestingly enough, they're in a way colonial stories. Greenwich Mean Time, it's not Abu Dhabi Mean Time. It's a human creation. But then we created other models of stories. Story of biology, story of physics, story of mathematics, story of anthropology, story of philosophy, story of religion, story of spirituality. And in a sense, we embedded ourselves in a story, and multiple stories, not just narrative, but as I said, models of reality. Models of reality. So everything that we say about reality is a story, a human story. In a way then, as biological organisms, as Homo sapiens, we are what is called a large language model, which is what AI is, large language model. With AI now, you can take all these stories, the story of religion, the story of philosophy, the story of history, anthropology, mathematics, science, technology, and you have a new experience of the world, a new experience of the world. So right now we are in the midst of leapfrogging, not only culturally and socially, we are in the midst of a cultural and social leapfrogging, but we're also in the midst of a biological revolution. And when I say this, people sometimes are very cynical about this statement, that we are actually evolving into a new species. And the reason I say it is that humans have been basically technologists even before they learned how to speak. In the Stone Age, we had stone tools. Even before that, we had plant tools. Then we discovered fire. Had we not discovered fire, we wouldn't have cooking. And had we not had cooking, we wouldn't have the human brain. Because once you start to cook food, you start to extract micronutrients much more efficiently, and your entire biology changes. The human brain is actually a result of the discovery of fire, a technology. But it's even more interesting. Had we not discovered fire, we wouldn't have the steam engine thousands of years later. If we didn't have the steam engine, you wouldn't have the industrial age. If you didn't have the industrial age, you wouldn't have the age of technology. You wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have AI. So AI is just the evolution of technology based on language. Everything that we do as humans is based on language. Everything that we perceive is based on language. If you don't have a word for it, you don't have an experience of it. So, of course, this is very biblical too. First there was the Word was with God, and the Word became the flesh. And that's also there in a different way in the Quran. So, words define our cultural identity, our social identity, our economic identity, our ancestral identity, our religious identity is linguistically framed. Linguistics and culture go together. So that's a brief history of how technology has evolved. What is very interesting also historically is that between the ages or the period of 1887 to 1903, which is not even 20 years. So 1887 to 1903, humans created 4 technologies that changed the entire world. The first was the light bulb, the second was the automobile, the third was the airplane, and the fourth was the telephone. All less than 20 years. So let's assume that you had been shipwrecked on a desert island somewhere here, 1887, and then you were rescued, or 1885, let's say. You were rescued in 1905, which is 20 years later. The world you came into was beyond your imagination, beyond your imagination. In 1885, on the streets, there were only horses and carriages and camels. And then 1905, you suddenly start seeing automobiles. Soon you start seeing airplanes taking off, people speaking to each other on the telephone, and the light bulb, which completely shifted our biological rhythms. So our biology shifted as a result of these 4 technologies. Now look at our own history. We had the hunter-gatherer age, which is, say, 40, 50,000 years ago. Then we had the industrial scientific revolution 500 years ago. Then we had the industrial age a little over 200 years ago. The age of technology is less than 100 years. The internet is only since the 1990s. And then you had email and fax machines and FaceTime and everything that we take for granted right now. AI as a large language model has existed only for the public since the year 2012. Where are we? 2025. So it's not even 20 years. AI has existed publicly for the last 20 years or less. And already it is shaping the way we think. Our culture is shaping, our knowledge and database is expanding, and we can now tap into the wisdom of the greatest minds through the years. Today when I was coming here, I was thinking, if I look at some of the greatest minds in the Arab world, for example, and I'm sure you know the name Ibn al-Arabi, who lived from 1165 to 2040, and he used the expression Wadat al-Wajud, the unity of being, the nature of existence, that existence differentiates from one source, whatever you want to call that source. And so that has now become actually the major major scientific question of our times. So today, if you go on Google or any other search engine and you ask, what are the 125 open questions in science? And you can do it anytime. But this question now has been asked by scientists for the last less than 20 years. 2008 was the first time science published the open question. Open questions means we don't know the answers. So every year this is published, what are the 125 open questions in science? And invariably, the first open question is, what is the universe made of? What is the universe made of? Number one. And number two, what is the biological basis of consciousness? So those are the two most important questions in science. Number one, what is the universe made of? And number two, what is the biological basis of consciousness? Consciousness being the source of all experience. Right now you're having an experience. You're listening to me, you're hearing me, you're looking at this room, you're aware of your own body, you're aware of your mind. Where is this happening? What's the biological basis? And these two questions are very intimately related. So let's deal with them in order. What's the universe made of? If you talk to regular scientists, mainstream scientists these days, most of them, not all of them, will say we know what the universe is made of. It's made of force fields. It's made of electromagnetic activity. It's made of atoms. It's made of molecules. All this that you see is a manifestation. Everything you perceive is a manifestation of atoms, particles, force fields, gravity. These are the forces of nature. Electromagnetism, then the nuclear forces, including strong and weak interactions, and gravity. This creates whatever the universe is. Well, not really true. 70% of the universe is a mysterious entity called dark energy. And dark energy is not the usual kind of energy that you associate with atoms and molecules. It's not E is equal to mc squared. Dark energy is also called vacuum energy, and it is expanding space right now faster than the speed of light. So we have no idea what it is. Okay, 70% of the energy of the universe, which is also called the cosmological constant, which is present in the vacuum of space right in front of you. In the vacuum of space is dark energy, which is expanding the universe, the space between galaxies, faster than the speed of light. And if you ask scientists, what is it? They cannot define it other than it's a mathematical construct. So that leaves 30% of the universe that remains, of which 27% is another mysterious entity called dark matter. What is dark matter? Dark matter is invisible matter. It's not made of atoms. You and I are made of atoms and force fields and everything else that we call. We are held together by electromagnetic forces, and gravity holds us to the ground. But dark matter is invisible. It doesn't look like matter. It doesn't look like this sofa or your body or anything that you can see. And because it's not made of matter, it's actually not only unknown, but probably unknowable. We are made of atoms and molecules and particles, And so is everything else that you can see or perceive. If something is non-atomic, you can't interact with it. It doesn't interact with light. It doesn't reflect light, absorb light, emit light. So there's no way of interacting with this mysterious entity, which is 27% of the universe. So why do we call it matter? If it's the same, if it's invisible, if it's not made of atoms and particles, why do we call it matter? We call it matter because it's responsible for most of the gravity in the universe. So if dark matter didn't exist, it bends space-time in the same way as regular matter. If dark matter did not exist, then planets and galaxies would spiral off into intergalactic space, and you and I wouldn't exist. So whatever this dark matter is responsible for our existence. But we don't know what it is, and we can't interact with it. So that leaves 3% of the universe remaining, which is made of atoms and molecules. 3%, out of which 99.9999% is invisible interstellar dust, which we can't see. Okay? It's presumed to be hydrogen and helium, but we can't see it. The visible universe, which we can see, not through these eyes, but through radio telescopes, when we look at what we call energy of the universe and the origins of the universe, Big Bang, so on. The visible universe, which is now estimated through the latest science, is 2 trillion galaxies. 2 trillion galaxies. We live in the Milky Way galaxy, but the Milky Way galaxy, which is 100 billion stars, is one of 2 trillion galaxies. And that contains 700 sextillion stars. That's 700 7 to the order of 21 zeros. That's the number of stars there are. And there are uncountable trillions of planets. Uncountable, according to the latest science. So if you look, again, don't believe me, go and check it out on Google or ChatGPT or wherever. It is now estimated that there are 60 billion habitable planets in just the Milky Way galaxy. So multiply the Milky Way galaxy by 2 trillion galaxies, and the universe is teeming with life. And life as we know it, not any other mysterious life. And the way this is calculated mathematically is scientists look for what is called a biosphere. Biosphere is conditions similar to planet Earth. If the planet is too close to its sun, too hot, no life as we know it. It's too far away from its sun, too cold, no life as we know it. It has to be in something called the Goldilocks zone. The planet has to be within a certain range from its sun. It has to have a certain amount of gravity, electromagnetic forces for life to exist like this. And according to all the math, right now, there are 60 billion of these in just the Milky Way galaxy. Multiply by that by 2 trillion, and our planet is not even 1 grain of sand in all the deserts and all the beaches of the universe. And on that planet is a species called Homo sapiens, who's trying to figure out where did life come from. So tomorrow, if this 1 grain of sand disappeared from the desert, I don't think the universe would notice. But nevertheless, here we are, asking these questions. And why do we ask these questions? Because we have a language to ask questions, a language to ask what is going on. And that is the number one question in science today. The atomic universe, the atomic visible universe, is less than 0.01% of the universe. The atomic universe, the visible universe, 2 trillion galaxies, is less than 0.01% of the universe. But atoms are made of particles, and particles have a dual nature. If you're looking at particles, they appear as particles with mass and energy. So every particle is defined in units of mass and energy. But don't look at them, and they disappear into waves. Unlike particles, waves have no units of mass and energy, and furthermore, they have no location in space-time. So then the question is, what are these waves that create the universe made of? Including you and me, because we are made of the same stuff as the universe. What are the waves that create the universe made of? And the best answer you'll get from scientists, they're made of, they exist in Hilbert space. They're made of possibilities. So if you look at ocean waves, they're made of water. If you look at sound waves, they're made of the vibration of air molecules. But what are the waves that create the universe made of? And the best answer you'll get is they're made of infinite possibilities. Then you ask, where do these possibilities exist? And the best answer you'll get from science is they exist in Hilbert space. So what is Hilbert space? Hilbert is the name of a mathematician, and Hilbert space is a space in mathematical imagination. So what's the universe made of? The shortest answer is, it's made of nothing. The shortest answer is, the universe is made of nothing that we can perceive, nothing that we can conceptualize, nothing that we can even imagine. So that's the first question. What's the universe made of? Nothing. The second question is, if it's made of nothing, why does it look like this? Okay, why does it look like you, me? And this wall and this furniture, like rocks, like stars, like the sun, the moon, the sky. If it's made of nothing, then why does it look like everything? How does nothing look like everything? And that is the second open question in science. And it's called the hard problem of consciousness. So where does consciousness come from? How is it created? This is called the hard problem of consciousness. So according to current science right now, current science means the latest science. You know, science evolves. You had the Newtonian science, then you had general relativity and special relativity, then you had quantum physics. And right now, science is asking, how do we experience anything? Right now, you're experiencing something that you interpret as Deepak. Okay? And according to current science, what is happening is photons, which are invisible, photons do not have any color, shape, dimensionality. Photons are bouncing off this object, they're going to your eyes, and then they're traveling from your eyes through the optic nerves as an electrical current, and then the electrical current in your optic brain, occipital brain, it is turning into electrochemistry. And then suddenly you see this thing, you say, Deepak, how? That's called the hard problem of consciousness, because there's no image of me in your brain. There's no image of me in your eyes. Similarly, you're experiencing sound. You're listening to me, you're experiencing sound. There's no sound in your brain. There is nothing that we call experience in your brain. If I put a knife through your brain, you won't even feel pain. The brain doesn't even know its own experiences. All the brain shows is electrochemistry. How does electrochemistry become this experience, which we call life? How does it become? How does electricity, basically, become color, shape, form, sound, taste, smell, thoughts, feelings, emotions? No one knows. So, these are the two fundamental questions of science. The universe is made of nothing. It appears as everything. And one of the things that's happening in the brain is chemistry. But how does chemistry create this experience? Okay, these are the two most fundamental questions in science that actually have been asked since Plato. They've been asked by Ibn al-Arabi. They've been asked by the sages of the Upanishads. And today, they're being asked by science. And we still have no idea through the scientific model. So when a question persists for thousands of years, ever since the cognitive revolution, when we started to think and we started to ask questions, when a question exists for thousands of years, 40,000 years, hasn't been answered, then perhaps it's time to ask ourselves, are we asking the wrong questions? Okay, are we asking the wrong questions? Because if we ask the wrong questions, we will never get to the answers. And so today I'm proposing to you, which a handful of sages, scientists, and psychotics have come up with an answer that actually there is no physical universe. There is no physical anything. What we call material reality is a human story. It's a large language model for activities in consciousness, perceptual activities and cognitive activities in consciousness. Perceptual activity. The human range of perceptual activity is very small. It's not even a sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum. For example, you can see only 200 to 800 nanometers of wavelengths of light. You can hear only a small frequency of sounds. And from that, we construct a recipe called physical matter. But physical matter, including the matter of your body, is actually a human story, a human construct based in human imagination for human perceptual activity and human cognitive activity, which is a modified form of consciousness. So consciousness is the only reality, and everything else is a modified vibration, expression, illusion, construct of that fundamental reality. So in Sanskrit, that particular entity which appears as the universe is called Brahman. Brahman is fundamental reality which is without cause, because everything in space-time has a cause. It's transcendent. It has no form. Having no form, it has no border. Having no border, it is infinite. Because it is infinite, it is spaceless. It is timeless. It is beyond comprehension, it is beyond imagination, and it is of the nature of consciousness, which is modifying itself as what we call mind, intellect, ego, and then energy, and then the physical appearance of the body. And this is not a uniquely Indian idea. It's found in the mystical traditions of Islam, as I mentioned, Ibn al-Arabi, in the mystical traditions of Christianity and Judaism, with different words. But right now, what you're experiencing as the physical world, including your physical body, is a perceptual activity through the five senses. And then the rest of it is a human story. What you experience right now is only sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. I'll repeat that. What you're experiencing as the contents of your consciousness are sensations, five senses, sensations, images, imagination, feelings, emotions, and thoughts. And with that raw material of sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts, we create a story. And the story is, we have a mind, we have a body, and there is a physical universe. But actually, it's a human story. The universe that you experience is a manifestation of the five senses, and human senses. It's not the senses of a crocodile, or the senses of a dolphin, or the senses of an insect with 100 eyes, or the senses of a bat which knows the echo of ultrasound. What you're experiencing is a human perception and a human story in human imagination, and we call it the physical body and the universe. The universe is a projection of the five senses. The five senses, in turn, are an activity of the mind, which is called the subtle body. So the physical body, then there's a subtle body, which is mind, intellect, and ego, which is orchestrating the story which we call the human universe. And those five senses is all you experience, and the rest is in our imagination. It's like you can take flavors and make any cuisine out of it. You can take sounds and make poetry out of it or music out of it. You can take texture and create innumerable sensations out of it. So the universe that we experience is a human recipe in the human mind, which is a modification of infinite consciousness. And that infinite consciousness has no form. So you say, well, in Islam we say God has no form, no idols. In the Old Testament we say God has no form, but in Christianity starts to come up with a little form, and in Hindus there are hundreds of gods and goddesses, idols. So what are you talking about? Well, those are symbolic representations of the formless. Ultimate reality has no form. Ultimate reality is modifying itself as form and phenomena. And because we cannot comprehend it with our imagination, only through mathematics, we give it a symbolic representation. Everything that you see is a symbolic representation of the formless divine matrix, which is expressing itself as form and phenomena. And that is what, by the way, Ibn al-Arabi said in one word, Wadat al-Wajud. I'm sure you're familiar with this. Wadat al-Wajud. Wadat al-Wajud, which is the unity of being. That being is one entity, Allah or God or Brahman or Atman or whatever, and everything else is a modified expression of that. And it is for that reason, I think AI, which can tap into the wisdom of the ages and go to the heart of experience, can actually show us the way to what is called enlightenment, which is fundamental reality, modifying itself or divine reality, modifying itself as form and phenomenon. Everything that you perceive is form, and every form is a phenomenon, and the phenomenon is the vibration of the divine matrix, which is beyond our imagination and incomprehensible. That is why in every religious tradition says the mystery of the divine is such that it cannot be comprehended by the human intellect. But now with large language models, we can actually go to the source of experiences of the great, prophets, the sages who have existed through the ages, who have showed the map. And remember that the map is not the territory. So even though the AI models give us maps to explore, they're like menus, they're like recipes. When you go to a restaurant, you look at a menu, you decide what to eat, but you can't eat the menu. You have to eat the meal. And so too, with AI, you cannot get enlightenment, but you can tap into the maps of the great sages and scientists and prophets who actually transcended all systems of thought. All systems of thought. No system of thought, philosophy, science, or dare I say, spirituality as a dogma or a system of thought actually can give us access to reality. No system of thought. You have to go beyond all systems of thought and transcend thought in order to have a glimpse of reality. And when you have a glimpse of reality, you realize that you're a differentiated, you as a body-mind are a differentiated expression of one source. And it doesn't matter what the name you give to that source. There's one source that is differentiating into all forms, all phenomena, and everything that we call experience. But experience, raw experience, is simply sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts that is modifying itself into that experience. So given that, let me share with you one slide. I selected only one slide today to share with you, which we can see right now. And basically, it is the meme of the day. Health span, longevity. How can we extend the human experience that we have of our body and our mind into understanding what is called fundamental reality? The first thing, and by the way, this is all based on current science, that what we call biological age is actually a human construct also. That biological age, psychological age, spiritual age are different things. But when we look at our biology, we have to start reinterpreting our biology not as a material entity, but as a field of awareness. How do you know you have a body? You perceive it, okay? And then you say, this is my body. But then you've had many bodies since you were conceived. You were a fertilized egg, then you were an embryo, then you're a baby, then you're a toddler, then you're a young adult, a mature adult, all the way to dusty death. Your body is not a noun, it's not a material object, it's a verb. It's a modified form of consciousness. So once we start to understand the body as a field of awareness, then we extend our biometrics through new technologies, including AI, to actually measure that field of awareness and regulate the field of awareness through our consciousness. We reframe the idea of aging, and we begin to shift our identity from that which is time-bound to that which is timeless, because your essential state of being is timeless. And then when you look at all the other 11 parameters here, these, if adopted properly, including sleep, meditation, healthy food, phytochemicals, adaptogens, vagal stimulation, which is through various techniques, yogic techniques, and then exercise and everything else that I've mentioned over there, these 11 strategies will extend your health span, your lifespan, but ultimately there is death, because without death, the universe doesn't recycle and evolve. And it recycles and evolves in our consciousness. So I've said a lot. A lot of it might be a little abstract for you, but in order to make it a little more palatable, I'd like you to indulge me with a little 10-minute meditation. If that's okay, can we do it? Okay? Okay, so sit on your chairs as you are. Keep your back relatively erect. Keep your feet on the ground. Keep your hands open. And close your eyes. Let's start with the first mindfulness practice, which is observing the breath. Observe the breath. And recognize your breath is a sensation. How do you know you have a breath? It's a sensation. And it arises, it's experienced, and then it subsides before the next breath. And how do you recognize this sensation? Through awareness. You are aware of the sensation of breath. So as you observe your breath, just mentally remind yourself, I am the consciousness, the awareness in which breath arises and subsides. I am the awareness, the consciousness in which breath arises and subsides. And from this there's a deeper insight. We all share the same breath. We all share the same breath. But as we go deeper into this, you'll realize we all share the same sensations from a deeper level of awareness. And whatever arises also subsides. This is the law of impermanence. And from where we also realize that there is no separate self, just by observing the breath. Now turn your attention or your awareness and bring it to your heart. And mentally ask the question, who am I? What am I? Do not try to answer the question. Just ask the question and be aware of any sensation, any image, any feeling, or any thought that comes to you. Who am I? Am I the changing body, or am I the awareness in which the body is a changing sensation? Am I the body, or am I the awareness in which the body is a changing sensation? Again, do not try to answer it. See what comes up. Am I the changing body? Or am I the awareness, the consciousness in which the body is a changing sensation? Go a little deeper. Am I the changing mind? Or am I the awareness in which the changing mind is a changing sensation? Just sit with that question. Who am I? Am I the body? Am I the mind? Or am I the awareness in which the body and mind are changing changing experiences. Let's go a little deeper. So go to the next question. What do I want? What is my deepest desire? Again, do not try to answer the question. Just see what comes up when you ask the question. What is my deepest desire? Allowing any sensation, any image, any feeling, any thought to come to you. Third question, what is my purpose? Again, allowing any sensation, any image, any feeling, any thought to come to you. What is my purpose? Fourth and final question, what am I grateful for? Gratitude opens the door to your soul. What am I grateful for? Allowing any sensation, any image, any feeling, any thought to spontaneously come to you. Gratitude opens the door to the generosity of spirit. Now let's go a little further, deeper into this. So now become aware of sound, including the sound of my voice. Notice that sound is like the breath. It's a sensation. It arises, it's there, then it's gone. So as you observe sound, just remind yourself, I am the awareness in which sounds arise and subside. I am the awareness in which sounds arise and subside. Just like the breath. Now feel the sensations in your body from the inside out. Feel your skin touching your clothes. Feel your weight on the chair. Notice that sensations also arise and subside. When you pay attention to them, they're intermittent, they arise, they're there, and then they're gone before they arise again. As you experience sensations, just remind yourself, I am the awareness in which sensations arise and subside. Now let's move to images. So I'll help you. Create the image right now of a beautiful sunset on the ocean. Now create the image of snow-clad mountains. Now create the image of a rainbow. Create the image of a lush green valley. Create the image of the Empire State Building or your house. Create the image of a giraffe. Create the image of a camel. Notice that images come and go just like the breath. They are intermittent, they are ephemeral, they are ungraspable, they arise and subside. You cannot even hold on to the image. And as you're experiencing these images, remind yourself, I'm the awareness in which images arise and subside. Let's go a little deeper. Bring into your heart the awareness of someone you love. Could be your child, could be your parent, could be your significant other, could be your pet. Bring the image of someone you love and then feel the emotion that image creates. See, it's also intermittent. It's a subtle sensation that arises and subsides. I am the awareness in which images arise and subside, and thoughts, and feelings, and emotions. Now allow your awareness to move outside the boundaries of your skin. Let it engulf this whole building, your awareness, all the people, all the furniture, as images, as thoughts. And now expand your awareness. Let it move outside the boundaries of the Abu Dhabi Book Fair. Let your awareness engulf the whole of Abu Dhabi, the whole of UAE, the whole of the Middle East, the whole of the planet, the whole of the solar system. Keep expanding it till it moves and engulfs the Milky Way galaxy. Trillions of stars, planets. And just observe what sensations, what images, what feelings, what thoughts arise as you expand your awareness beyond all boundaries. And remind yourself, I am the awareness in which the whole universe is recycling and evolving as my own sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. I am the awareness that conceives and constructs and governs and becomes the experience of my body, of my mind, of the universe. I am the awareness in which the whole universe is recycling and evolving as my own sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. And now, turn your attention to your own presence, to your own awareness. Become aware of being aware. Awareness is presence. Presence is spirit, soul, a differentiated part of the divine. So be aware of your own presence. Rest in presence. Rest in awareness. Be aware of being aware. Awareness has no form, no shape, no color, no sound. Infinite, formless. But without that, there is no experience of any sensation, any image, any feeling, any thought. So just rest in your own being. Presence, spirit. Awareness has no age. It has no cause. It is not 5 years old or 10 years old or 100 years old. It is not in time. So just remind yourself, I'm the awareness without which there is nothing. Now slowly bring your awareness back into your body and gently open your eyes. Okay, so before I finish, let me ask you a question. Did you find this interesting? A little more enthusiasm, please? Okay, so I'm going to ask you the same question. Did you find this interesting? Okay, but this time don't answer it till I raise my hand, okay? And when I raise my hand, please say yes enthusiastically, but not before I raise my hand. Did you find this interesting? Don't answer till I raise my hand. Did you find this interesting? Yes! Okay, so the question is a thought. The answer is a thought. In between is you, awareness, the soul, the spirit, connected to the infinite. So in every finite experience, between every finite experience, the infinite is present, as presence, as awareness. In our everyday world, we get distracted by the fluctuations of consciousness, sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts, always forgetting that in between every sensation, in between every thought, in between every image is the presence that we call the infinite. As Rumi said, God's language is silence. Everything else is a poor translation, and that includes AI. Thank you. I'll sign some books. Huh? Thank you.